So today we're going to talk a little bit about my love and my affinity for shotguns. So yesterday, a good buddy of mine that I used to work in SWAT with, he liked a video that a guy put together. Don't know who the guy was. He had some good points. He likes ARs, so do I. I've been carrying ARs for 35 years, and I ran M4s for about 9. So I love the AR platform. But in his video, he had talked about his thinking. He didn't like the idea that a shotgun was the ultimate self-defense gun for home protection. And he made some good points. You know, he talked about everything penetrates walls, and that's true, even though, let's face it, rifle rounds have more penetration than a flinging BB through the air. He also did some things. We talked about how much more lethal a rifle is, and to a certain extent, he's correct. He was shooting birdshot. I mean, if you're going to use a shotgun defensively in the home, I would suggest you don't use birdshot. He had also recommended too that, not recommended, but he'd also stated that, you know, if you get shot with birdshot, that you're just going to get mad. But, you know, if you get a face full of birdshot, it's going to be a lot worse than getting upset. But I appreciated his opinions, you know. So here I got my little AR Saint pistol. Now these things are totally groovy. I never had a short-barreled rifle. I've got one NFA weapon, and I'll never own another because I don't like all the requirements. This has a 7.5-inch barrel. It's a 5.56. I'm an old dude, so I run 28, right? 28 to the right, no 30 for me. And it's got an EOTech on there, and it's an awesome little gun. And I can shoot out to 200 yards with this accurately. I've never shot beyond that. I don't know why I wouldn't be able to hit beyond that, but I can strike 200 yards with this, and this gun's really made for up close and personal. But let's get down to the reality of up close and personal. The beast. Right here. Bought this gun when I was running in SWAT. This gun's probably been through about 1,000 doors or so. It's got a big old scratch right there from my buddy that had shared that video yesterday where he ran a rake and brake tool down it about a week after I brought it to work. But, you know, there's something really interesting about shotguns that people aren't thinking of. And this guy that was putting that video together, I'm sure he's a knowledgeable fella, but you know, when you talk from the context of lethality, there's a couple different points that you have to talk about. What I mean is we talk about loading 28 rounds into an AR weapon, or 30 if you want to run 30. And then people say, you know, you only run 5 or 6 rounds in a shotgun. Now, I got 7 rounds in my 14-inch Benelli shotgun, but really that's not fair context. You see, because I run double-aught buck, which runs 9 .32 caliber pellets. So though there's 28 cartridges in here, I have 7 casings, but I have 63 projectiles. Now there's a big difference when you start talking about that. You see, the idea is that people say, well, I got 28 separate shots and you've only got 7. And I say that's completely correct. But the idea is that that one bullet had better do a lot of damage, because every time I pull the trigger, I'm going to put 9 rounds out. 9 .32 caliber pellets as opposed to 1 .22 caliber projectile. Now that's a big deal. Now people talk about body armor. It's true. That round will penetrate soft body armor, and a shotgun won't. But if you have a shotgun and you put a little bit of common sense into it, most likely an intruder you're going to be shooting it out with isn't going to be wearing body armor. If they are, when you're shooting a shotgun, you really focus on upper torso and lower torso. Now, everybody that does a little bit of training, they recognize that you shoot mid-torso. Why is that? Because when people move, it gives you an opportunity to still strike something. Thus, the beauty of a shotgun and an opening pattern. You see, in the video where we talked about shooting accurately, there was 3 different scenarios where he shot 18 yards, maybe 10 yards with a hostage situation. And there's one thing that the targets didn't do that people do when you start shooting at them, and that's move. And that's why shotguns are the ultimate defense weapon. You see, if you're going to shoot somebody that's not moving around, and you can shoot perfectly because nothing's going to happen in a world where nothing like that actually does happen, and you can put that one round in a high-stress situation perfectly, well, that's great. But if your target starts moving around, that one little bullet or a couple little bullets that don't hit anything lethal, that's different than 9 rounds every pull of the trigger. And I can pull the trigger on this gun just as quickly as I can pull the trigger on that gun. Which means when I pull the trigger on that gun 6 times, I pulled the trigger on this gun 6 times. Let's say 7, because I have 7 rounds in here. The difference is I have 7 projectiles coming out of that AR pistol, and I have 63 projectiles coming out of this shotgun. Another thing that was talked about in that video, and I'm going to demonstrate, and I'm not going to shoot the little AR Saint. I know everybody likes to see it shot. I like shooting it, but today I'm just going to shoot this shotgun a little bit because I want to talk about the brilliance of a shotgun for close quarters. Because I think too many people are talking about them like they're old school and they're worthless, and that's just not the truth. In that video, they were also talking about a hostage situation shot. Now I can tell you this. I was in SWAT for 9 years, was a cop for 20, and we're a tier 1 team, full-time tier 1 team in Vegas. I got about 2,500 missions under my belt, about 400 call-outs, hostage situations, things like that. I was a sniper the vast majority of the time I worked there. And maybe one time, I'm getting old, so my memory isn't as good as it used to be, but maybe one time I saw somebody holding somebody hostage. So what I'm saying is, from the standpoint of a civilian, the idea of you probably having to take a shot, a hostage shot, meaning a head right next to somebody, very unlikely. Let's face it, the fact that you're probably never going to get in a shooting is more likely. But when we talk about something that'll shoot 1 projectile as opposed to something that's got an opening pattern to shoot, of course you'd feel safer with 1 shot. What I want to tell you is this. If you've got a loved one in the hands of a deranged person, and we think of the idea of, I'm the bad guy and I've got a gun, and always the head is like this, so we're probably holding your loved one like this. I want to tell you something. When you bring your gun up at me, I'm going to do one of 2 things. Again, something targets don't do. So in the video, it makes sense, because targets just sit there and look stupid, like me most of the time. But real people, when you point your gun at me, are going to do one of 2 things. One is this, and the other is this. And then what are you going to do? It doesn't matter what gun you got. You know, just about 8 months ago, there was a police officer that got into a wrestling match. 2 or 3 other police officers were in the area, came running up on him, and engaged in a shooting at about 5 or 6 yards, and killed the officer that was wrestling with the suspect. Killed both of them. Taking a shot on a hostage situation is a dangerous, dangerous thing. And the best way to do that is close quarters and contact wound. You get really close because you know where that round is most likely going to go. Listen, rounds can strike a bone and come out that way. That's just a fact of life. Most people don't realize that. There's been shootings when I was a cop in Vegas where 9mm rounds went into, struck a skull and stuck in the skin and spun around the skull a couple times. You'd think something like that isn't possible. It is. Bullets do crazy things. But when we talk about shotgun in a hostage shooting situation with a single shot, with somebody that's not gonna move, well, if you get perfect scenario situation, then a single shot, accurate weapon is gonna be perfect. But let me tell you something, there is no situation that's perfect like that. There isn't. And if you're gonna shoot at somebody in a hostage situation that involves your family or anybody innocent that you're trying to save, you damn well know what you're doing. And comparing it to a target that doesn't move, I think that you should rethink that. Now let's get on the range with the shotgun so I can show you something. Okay, so let's make this really easy. I'm only gonna shoot 7 times. So if you look down here at the target, that's about 10 yards. And I've got a little kind of hostage situation plate. I don't usually do that kind of stuff. I had to move my silhouette over there by my 8-inch plate. But the idea here is we're looking about 30 feet, 10 yards. Now what most people don't know about a shotgun is it's called patterning your gun, meaning that if you're going to run a gun defensively, you should run the same kind of round. Now I run double-aught buck, and I also run slugs, which shotguns, by the way, can easily reach out 100 yards very accurately with rifle sights with a slug. But up close and personal, I'm a big double-aught buck fan. So when we talk about a hostage situation, which I'm telling you right now, if you're contemplating doing something like that, I suggest you do about the most realistic, lifelike training, and then recognize that in a split second, something can move, something can change, and you can kill a family member, a fellow police officer, or a friend. So train it hard if you really think you're going to do something like that. Anyway, getting back to the shotgun. As you can see down there on the 8-inch plate, it's just kind of sticking out a little bit from the body. So what you do in patterning your gun is, first of all, you just put up like a piece of cardboard or a piece of wood or something, and you just aim at something perfectly, and then you'd fire, slowly making sure that you're steady with your aim and taking your time. And you'd see where the pattern of double-aught buckshot rounds land. Then you'd take another shot, you begin to move, you'd put several marks on that cardboard and begin to move. And what you want to do is recognizing whatever your pattern is at 10 yards, recognizing that it's always getting bigger and it's getting smaller closer, as you know where to aim. Now, food for thought you get about 10 yards is that you would aim your shotgun somewhere around the far side of the face of the bad guy. We're not going to aim here because if the pellets open up about 8 or 9 inches, you're going to put a couple 32 caliber pellets into the good guy. So if I aim my double-aught buckshot round right now on the left side of that 8-inch plate, let's see what happens. Voila! Look over there. It looks like there's 5 of the 9 pellets in the face at 10 yards. That's aiming right on the right-hand side face of that 8-inch plate. I call my 8-inch plates kill plates. Most heads are about 7 inches across, 7 or 8 inches up and down. That's why I pick 8-inch plates to train on. That's a perfect thing. Now, I haven't shot this gun for a long time. And, you know, I patterned it when I was running in SWAT because this is the gun that I constantly carried when I went on entries. But look at what I just did. I just put 5 32 caliber pellets into the bad guy's face by aiming here, not here, with a shotgun. So to talk about a fact that a shotgun will not work at that kind of distance, I mean 10 yards in a house, unless you're living in a mansion, that's about an average sized room, hallway, living room, something like that. Now the last thing I want to end up with is talking about, I now have 6 shells left. But what is that? That's 54 rounds. Now this is something that an AR pistol can't do. All right, so that last display showed 6 quick shots into that steel silhouette at 10 yards, right? And the idea is that that could have been 6 rounds from an AR, but it was 54 rounds from a shotgun. The idea is massive tissue damage, bleed out, stopping, and the opportunity, 9 times the opportunity to hit a vital as opposed to 1 round. Last thing I want to say about a shotgun compared to a rifle, and believe me, I love my rifles. If I had to have one gun overall in the whole wide world, believe me, I'd carry a rifle. But there is a place for shotguns, just like there's a place for hammerless revolvers in the tactical realm. The bottom line is this: shotguns are also made for movement. And believe it or not, what you can't justify if you're on a basic range is that when you're shooting at people and they know it, they're usually moving. And a moving target is what a shotgun is perfectly made for. The idea of shooting something moving targets with a single projectile that stays accurately placed where you're aiming, as opposed to 9 projectiles every time you're pulling the trigger at an opening pattern compared to distance, which allows you to put more rounds out there and take down a bad guy. Shotguns have their place in self-defense. But now, for the last thing I want to do, is my boy wants to shoot this. Now, of course, this is a 12 gauge with double-aught buck. My boy is 9 years old, so it's going to be a little rough on him. So he knows that. Now, usually I suggest people not to do that to their children, but he wants to do it. I wouldn't have him do it. He wants to try it, and that's okay. I'm going to stand here with him. The reason I tell people not to do that is I see people take a 6-year-old and do the same thing and shove it in that kid's hands, and it traumatizes that shooter. They never want to shoot again. You know, a recoil can make a great shooter a bad one real quick. If you make somebody afraid of a gun, whether it's your child or your spouse, you're doing more damage than you're doing good. Well, let's see what my Tiger can do with this shotgun. Come on, Tiger. All right, Mom. So Got to put it in your shoulder, and you're going to lean into it. Don't put your finger on the trigger. It's hot and it's ready, right? If you feel good enough, you can shoot a second round. Okay? I'm going to stand right behind you.
What happens if I don't want to shoot a second round? I just give it back to you?
Yeah, but I don't know why you would. Don't be scared. It doesn't sound like to be scared. Just lean into it and boom, shoot it. All right?
Okay.
All right. So wait for me. Go ahead and get it up. Got it? And remember, you lean into the gun. Are you on there, Mama?
Yeah, go ahead.
Man, it's so heavy. Once in a while, I got let down.
It's okay. So bring it up. Aim down the sights right in the center. Pull the trigger. One more.
What?
Save a life. One more time, son. Come on. Lean into it.
Woo! Too much.
But there you go. When someone wants to talk about small frame, women, police officers, whatever, I get it. People want to be afraid, they can be afraid. That's a 9-year-old kid. And look it, there's no misses. Now it's 10 yards, it's his first time. The first time it was a shocker. He didn't want to shoot the second. I said, save a life. And he did. So let's get beyond that. If a weapon system is efficient, people need to learn to train on it. If you're afraid of it, then maybe you should be in a different line of work. Shotguns are great weapon systems. They've saved a lot of lives and made the difference, saving cops and soldiers around the world. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come here, boy. How'd you do?
Good, I guess. It just can't, but I guess my hand was like right there, so the shell hit me in the middle finger. Maybe that's why I hurt the first time.
Oh, okay. How's your shoulder?
It's
All
fine.
right?
It's fine.
Let's see. Make a muscle. Woo! See that? Tough kid. Keep safe. All right, so I just loaded up with slugs. It's about, I don't know, 75 yards or so. Don't be moving on me when I'm looking over there. Then I think you're over there. Getting kind of tricky on me. Let's see what we can do with slugs 75 yards to the old man eyes and shotgun. Holy cow, it's right in the center. Did you see that? I don't know if I should shoot anymore. Wish I had me an AR. No, I like 1 ounce of slug dead center of the chest at 75 yards with iron sights. Gotta love a shotgun.